Okay, next we're going to delve into the world of screws a little bit more. So we talked about screws in the simple machines. Basically, you apply rotation to something and it creates a downward force. And it's got that self-locking property where it won't back out because the thing is resisting against it. So screws are really useful tools in that way. They're great at holding things together. So let's look at a few places where we can use them. The first type of screw that we have here is a wood screw. So some characteristics of a wood screw are that it has coarser threads here. You can see they're spaced out more with greater distance in between each one. And so that makes it so that it doesn't eat out too much wood, because if those were closer together, the wood wouldn't be strong enough to have the structural integrity to hold it in place there. But because they've got the distance there in between, it gives it enough that it can grip the wood. So those are great at, as we've illustrated here with our little wall holding things together. And you've got your wood screws. So those are used to fasten things to wood or attach pieces of wood together. One interesting feature of this particular one is you'll see we've got the straight part of the barrel right there. And that would be used for something where like you've got a thinner part of wood that's going into a thicker part. And so this enables this part to travel, and so you can pull it in tightly. So basically the screws, the threaded part is just in the lower board that you're screwing into. And then this can kind of float around so that it can pull that tightly in. So you want to make sure you get the right kind of threading for whatever your application is for your project. So next we have a lag screw, and this would be used to hang heavy duty types of things. So if you're mounting a TV to the wall or something like that, this is probably the one that you're wanting to go with, and you want to make sure that that's going into a wood surface. So that would typically involve drilling a pilot hole first. So we could get our drill set up here, and we'll pick something. When you're drilling a pilot hole, you want your hole to be a little bit narrower than the shaft of the screw. Not the threaded part, but the interior cylinder there. So we'll pick, that looks like probably about the right size there for a pilot hole. And we'll go ahead and drill that here. And then we can use our socket driver here to drill our lag bolt, which has the hex head there. So having the hex head rather than, say, a Phillips head or something allows you to get more torque on it, so you can get it even tighter than you would a conventional screw. So that is secure. That is not moving there. So that's a nice way to mount things that need a lot of purchase into whatever it is, and that can carry a heavy load. So these will be rated for different weight levels, and you can see that it's usually on the bag or whatever that you're purchasing it, and it'll tell you how well it's rated. And then, of course, the longer the screw, the more it's digging into something, the greater load it's going to have there too. So there is your lag bolt or lag screw. Sometimes people call them bolts, sometimes they call them screws. They're technically screws. Screws, what's the difference between a screw and a bolt? Screws have the pointy ends, generally. With some exceptions. And that would be your machine screw.
Of course.
Right, okay. So a machine screw has fine threads, and that is going to be going into something that is a threaded receptacle. So metal, generally. Maybe plastic, occasionally, but generally probably metal. So that's going to go in. So you'll find these on machines, obviously. If you're doing appliances or something like that, that would be an application for that. Something that's used in combination with screws a lot, especially if you're mounting things in drywall, would be plastic anchors of various kinds. So you've probably seen these anytime you have anything that needs to be hung on a wall and you get a hardware bag along with it. Sometimes you'll see these in there with that. So that, in order to install a plastic anchor, you would drill a pilot hole. And you want that to be, again, just a little smaller than the interior shaft of that anchor. So we might choose a drill bit that's probably about right there. And put that in there. So this gives you a little bit more security rather than just putting a screw in the drywall. So you drill your pilot hole, you put your plastic anchor in here, you can pound it in with a finish hammer till it's down flush with the wall. And then you can use the drill to then install your screw. So this would be a common setup for like if you're hanging curtains or something, you'd probably see a screw that looks about like that, and they might give you some plastic anchors with it. Now, if you have a stud behind where you're drilling in, you don't need to use the plastic anchor. In fact, you don't want to use the plastic anchor, because if you look at this, you'll see on the back side of the wall what's happening. That anchor has come through. See that? If you have a piece of wood behind, it can't do that. And so it's not going to serve you any purpose. But what will happen here is when you drive your screw in, you can see it actually splays the end of the plastic anchor there. And so that makes it secure so that it's wedged in there and won't come out.
Oh.
See that?
Yeah.
Did you have any idea that's what was going on?
I did not know
there?
that's what happened.
So that's the plastic anchor. I'm going to just go ahead and leave that there. So here's another type of plastic anchor, and this one is self-piloting. So with this, if you look in the inside there, it's actually got a little Phillips head. And let's just test and make sure that's the right size. But yeah, it looks like it is. But it will actually drill its own hole if you're going the right direction. And it goes right in like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can drill your screw into there as well. So that anchors in very tightly.
Yeah. Wow.
So that, and all of these things are probably also rated for different weights. And so you would just want to check the packaging to see what load it can handle. So I talked a little bit about studs, which would be these pieces of wood behind your drywall. And you might say to yourself, well, I can't tell where those are. So that's a good point. That's where a tool called a stud finder comes in. So with the stud finder, what you do is you put it on a piece of wall that you think is probably blank and you calibrate it, and then you hold the button in there and it tells you that there's nothing there, hopefully. And then there, it lights up when you have wood behind that. So it kind of lets you see through the wall. It's pretty cool. X-ray vision. Yes. So that tells you where are the secure places that you can attach things to. And that is a great tool for locating secure spots to hang things on walls. So if you don't have a stud, you can use one of these plastic anchors to increase the amount of load that you can put, or you can just use a regular screw into a stud, like a wood screw, and that will be a secure way of fastening things as well. So with that, we also have drywall screws, and we use those to fasten drywall to the studs. And these they're made of a more brittle material, so they're more likely to snap. So you probably don't want to use these in applications like woodworking, because they're not really meant for that. They're very specifically designed for drywall. So we have a couple different kinds too. So you have wood drywall screws, which have the coarser threads, like we talked about, for going into wood. And then you also have metal stud drywall screws, because sometimes these studs are actually made of metal. I've seen that before. So these basically make their own threads in the metal, because they've got those finer threads, and they cut their own thread there so that they can engage with the metal and hold it on. So that is some of our basic screws. We also have sheet metal screws. So sheet metal screws have coarser threads. These would be used for attaching ductwork to itself and things like that. So those also have very specific applications. They generally are shorter like that. You don't usually see super long ones, although I guess you can have longer ones too. But they are able to drive through metal. So that's some of your basic screws. There are so many different kinds, but that is a few of the major ones. And if you have a specific application for something, I would recommend becoming very good friends with your local hardware specialist so that you can make sure that you have the right hardware for the job. But that covers some basics.